Oh my god, yes, a series of extremely relatable circumstances is one of the dumbest titles for a TV show I think I've ever heard, but I actually did bother to watch it, and it's one of the dumbest TV shows I've ever seen. Now, right now, there are 4 episodes out and a pilot from February of 2023, and I watched all of them, and on top of that, I read multiple interviews and watched multiple interviews from the show's creator, Adele Supreme Williams, and yes, Supreme is in her name, and that is how she is credited on the show. She has personal reasons for that I don't really care to talk about, so I'm not going to make too much fun of her for that, but I will make the joke that this show is anything but supreme. See what I did there? It's pretty clever, or it's not very clever, but compared to this show, it's fucking genius. Now, I don't want to be too mean here because this show is already being beaten up by the fact that no one cares about it or bothers to watch it. No one is talking about it. I don't think anyone is watching it, but I wanted to try it because if I made a show for Adult Swim and 100 people reviewed it on IMDb, I'd be a little down on myself. So I did go through the trouble, and I really wanted to make sure I understood where the creator of this show was coming from. And I gotta say, there are some redeeming qualities here. At first glance, this show looks like your stereotypical panderfest from a team of writers that are trying way too hard to be relatable. And the fact that relatable is in the title of the show, I think scared off most of its viewer base. Now, I'm sure this title is a bit tongue-in-cheek because it's a show set in a futuristic sci-fi version of South Central LA centering around 3 cyberpunk ladies dealing with relationships and womanhood and all this stuff in this city. So yes, it's a bit tongue-in-cheek, but also I think that the show's creator did genuinely want the topics of relationships to be relatable to the audience. Now, that does beg the question, who is the target audience for this show? Because as it stands right now, this show seemingly was made for absolutely fucking no one. And I'm not saying that to be mean, I'm saying that as a fact. I've seen no one talk about this. I've seen barely any ads for it. And as I already said, it has like 100 reviews or something on IMDb. It has 10 user reviews. And I checked on this. 5 of those user reviews that are written out are from accounts made in the last 3 weeks since the show came out. They've only reviewed one show and it's oh my god, yes. They give it 10 out of 10. And a lot of the wording that they use is very similar to how Adele Supreme Williams talks about the show in interviews. Now, I'm not saying this as a gotcha or anything like that. Like, oh my god, your friends and family or possible staffers on the show left 5 10 out of 10 reviews on IMDb. Like, so what? Who cares? If a friend leaves a 10 out of 10 review and makes an account to support you, or a family member, or someone that worked on the show, I don't give a shit. What I'm trying to illustrate is that no one is talking about this show, and no one seems to care. I bothered to watch it, and I found some redeeming qualities, which I'm going to list off right now, but I want to make it clear, this show is a complete disaster in terms of writing. I have some issues with the world building. I don't think all the comedy's all that funny. I don't love the art style. I do like a lot of the backgrounds, but the writing is what destroys this show. Every single episode I saw, including the pilot, which I think is the best episode by far, feels like a first draft where every idea was thrown at the wall and they kept it all in the final version, which is a major problem. I'm going to break down why, but first, I want to go over the positives, because there are some, and I want to give this show credit where credit is due, because I think the show's creator, Adele Supreme Williams, in the future could make a really great TV show, because the first positive I have is that the main trio of characters, Sunny, Tulip, and Lady, aren't half bad. They're real characters, which I know is crazy. You would look at this show and think, oh, this is going to be a preachy mess, a pandering pile of garbage cringe fest. It's not really. There are moments where characters say things that are cringy, but it fits with their characters, and I can accept that, and I can look at that and say, hey, you actually put together 3 unique characters that I can accurately define, okay? And I can remember their names as well, which is all the more impressive in just 4 11-minute episodes. I couldn't remember the names of the 2 guys from that show, Universal Basic Guys, and I watched 3 20-some-odd minute episodes of that show and watched interviews, all right? So this show did stick in my head at least a little bit more than that, and another positive is the setting. It's set in a cyberpunk sci-fi version of South Central LA. I don't think they do anywhere near enough with the setting, and honestly, after a certain point, I was questioning why it was set in a sci-fi world at all. Clearly, the creator of the show just liked the idea of a sci-fi cyberpunk version of South Central LA, and I like it too, but if you're not able to utilize it, it feels empty and flat, and sadly, that's how it feels in the final version, but I still applaud the idea. Add on top of that, the backgrounds look great. I don't love the character designs. I think the animation looks very cheap, which is more of a Adult Swim issue, honestly. It seems like they gave them a shoestring budget, but I do like a lot of the backgrounds. They slip in some visual gags, and with a low budget like this, where the animation really isn't isn't carrying a lot of weight in any of the main 4 episodes. It looks way better in the pilot, in my opinion, where they're actually doing things like establishing the world with these establishing shots with motion instead of just flat shots of buildings. But still, there are some visual gags I liked. There are jokes that made me laugh, which was even more surprising that there was stuff that was actually funny in this show. I'm led on to believe now that Adele Supreme Williams might be an actual funny person, and I am confident that she's a very good artist because I went and I found some of her art. Look at this. Not this one, but this one. Not this one, but this one. I like some of her art. I think she's very talented. But sadly, that's where the positives for this show end. But I do want to say, I think Adele Supreme Williams could genuinely make a good TV show in the future. She just needs to work on her writing. And that is where this show really suffers, and I think it ruins the entire thing. As much as I like the setting, as much as I like some of the characters, and I think that they could work, the writing and the story structure completely destroys this show because it is written in a and then structure. And if you've ever seen that clip of Matt Stone and Trey Parker talking about and then writing structure and how you should actually structure things, it's exactly that. And I'll let that play real quick so you can understand what I'm talking about.
We can take these beats, which are basically the beats of your outline, and if the words and then belong between those beats, you're basically. You got something pretty boring. What should happen between every beat that you've written down is either the word therefore or but. Right? So what I'm saying is that you come up with an idea and it's like, okay, this happens, right? And then this happens. No. It should be this happens and therefore this happens. But this happens, therefore this happens. And that, as soon as we are able to, and literally sometimes we'll write it out to make sure we're doing it. We'll have our beats and we'll say, okay, this happened, but then this happens, and that affects this, and that does to that, and that's why you get a show that feels like, okay, this to that, to this to that, but this, here's the complication, to that.
So let's use the first episode of the show as an example, and I'm not talking about the pilot episode, which I think does a far better job of establishing the world and characters, but it wasn't included in the final release for continuity issues. I get that, we just have to take what we actually have for the first episode. The first episode is about Sunny wanting to have a baby, so she gets a coupon from a nightclub for a demon baby that she puts in a hippie character that never comes back, at least not in the first 4 episodes. And Lady, the violent, aggressive, takes no nonsense character, who I think is still well defined, she's relatively simple, but well defined, she goes inside the hippie lady by shrinking down to kill the baby before it can be born and start destroying the world. Now that information is presented kind of just how I presented it to you. It's just thrown at the audience. They don't establish why Sunny wants a baby. They don't establish how she gets the coupon for the demon baby. She just has it. They don't establish why the hippie character got inseminated with the baby. She's just there and she never shows up again. It is nonsense, and it is presented so stupidly. It's like a first draft where you throw all your ideas on the page and then they just went through with it. It is literally that and then structure that Trey Parker and Matt Stone are talking about. We got a coupon for a demon baby, and then we put the demon baby in a hippie, and then she gives birth, and then it turns out it's evil, and then it starts attacking the city, and then Sunny has to try to stop it. And every episode is like this. They all unfold like this. It's terrible. Nothing is established. They just want to get immediately into the meat of the episode without building up to it at all, or even bothering to give the audience a reason to care. It's just throwing everything at them, and you just sit there and take it, and by the end of it, you're like, what is going on? I found an interview where a guy says, he's like, oh, I loved the first episode. It felt like it was 30 minutes long. I actually had to watch it again to understand what was happening and pick up on some of the stuff. Here's a clip of that.
Because there's so much fun, but there's so much heart in it, so much substance, so much to talk about. In 11-minute episodes, I swear to God, I watched the first episode and I was like, how much time was that? And I swear I thought it was like a 30-minute episode. And I was like, that felt so loaded in the most lightest way. But truly watching it all now twice, it's fantastic.
I think he was trying to give the show a compliment by saying like, oh, it was so dense, it was filled with so much information and so many smart thoughts that I had to watch it again to even comprehend it. But what it read as to me after watching the episode is this episode is so sloppily written that it is incomprehensible on a first viewing. You will not be able to understand why characters are doing what they're doing until you watch it multiple times, which I think is a major problem. And that's why I did my best to try and write this story in the proper South Park-esque structure that they talked about in that clip. So listen to this after listening to how the actual story unfolds, which yes, is just and then. Listen to this alternative version that I came up with. Sunny wants to have a baby in her life. Therefore, she searches around for a way to make that happen. But she can't find a conventional way to have a baby, so therefore, she must turn to drastic measures by getting some kind of cyberpunk insemination device that allows her to have a child. But she doesn't want to carry the child because she's busy as an influencer. So therefore, she turns to her hippie friend to carry the baby for her. But it turns out the cyberpunk insemination device creates an evil demon baby designed to destroy the world. And therefore, once the baby is born, it starts going on a rampage, and because of that, Sunny feels responsible for bringing the demon baby's rampage to an end. It might be harder to fit something like that into an 11-minute episode, but the flow of information and the structure of the story is much more sound. It takes our characters to different locations, it establishes what they want, or at least it can establish what they want. You can keep it a secret. Sunny can be like, I want a baby. Why do you want a baby? I don't know. Look, now we have a mystery. Now we have somewhat of a conflict. Now the audience is intrigued and they might be able to learn something. But there's just no structure in this show. Every episode is like this. They just hurl information at you so quickly. You have no time to process what is going on or why it's happening. We're in this cyberpunk sci-fi world. I don't know why we're in this cyberpunk sci-fi world. I don't know why characters are doing things they're doing. I don't know anything. It's just information and ideas and stuff. It's just stuff. Without structure, this is just a stream of consciousness. And what makes TV great, what makes it a great medium for storytelling, is the structure for it. And it's why I love story structure so much. But Oh My God Yes is missing the very basics of story structure, and it completely ruins the show. So Adele Supreme Williams, if you're watching this review, which I hope you are, like, keeping an eye out for stuff like this, because no one's talking about this show right now, because I think the title scared them off. I think the character designs aren't that appealing, but I bothered to give it a chance, and I think there are genuinely redeeming qualities to this show. But for the love of God, please work on the story structure, because none of these episodes work. They just don't. They are presented so matter-of-factly, so blatantly, that it becomes unwatchable. So there you go. That's Oh My God Yes. I have a headache now from thinking about this. It's a real shame because I really do like the setting. I don't think the characters were that terrible. I know that the title and all this shit scared people off, and these are all lessons that you can learn and apply later down the road. But this show, my God, these first 4 episodes are so poorly written. I am genuinely shocked. So don't give this show a try. It's not very good. I don't regret watching it. I want to make that very clear because I did actually wind up getting something out of it. I learned that there are redeeming qualities to this show. I learned about the show's creator a good deal, and I respect their vision. I think maybe with a bigger budget and some writing help, this could have been something at least watchable. But as it stands right now, I genuinely think it is terrible, and it is almost 100% because of the story structure, at least for me. I know some people can look past that. They can look past the structure and say, yeah, the story didn't make a bunch of sense, but there were some funny jokes here and there, and I like listening to the characters. That's fine if that's you. I love my structure, and this show is devoid of structure, and I cannot recommend it to anyone. Oh, wait, I have to do the joke. Wait, I have a joke. Hold on. Oh my God, yes? More like, oh my God, no thank you. That was the first thing I wrote, and I wasn't going to include it, but fuck it. I'm done. Bye.